Hey everybody, Peter here, Thailand bound. Thanks for joining me for another video. So back to regular videos today. I'm not going to be talking about the big C, not today anyway, who knows in the future. So today's video it's another relationship video. These seem to be quite popular with quite a lot of people. And once again, it's between a Thai bar girl and a Western man. And once again, the guy this time comes from the UK. I'll give you a little bit of background on both of them, as I always do. There's not really too much to tell about the girl. Normal story, comes from Isan, went down to Patti to work, ended up working in a small beer bar. She's 28. For the sake of the story, we're going to be calling her Marley. That translates to flower. All the Thai names have some kind of a meaning, a nice meaning. The guy, a little bit more background on him. His name's Larry. As I say, he's from the UK. And I've spoken to Larry several times through various messaging services, and he's actually supplied this story and he's given me permission to share it with you guys. So thanks for that, Larry. So a little bit of background on Larry, what he's actually said to me. He's been traveling all over Southeast Asia since 1980, a lot longer than me actually. And not only Thailand, he spent a hell of a lot of time in Thailand. That's been his main destination of choice, but he's done the usual, I guess, Philippines, Cambodia, them sort of places. And he's about 66 years of age. So he's not naive. He's not a first-time traveller. When he's in the UK, he tends to spend a lot of time on the internet. I'm guessing he's either divorced or single, but he spends a lot of time on the internet, and he's always looking for tips and tricks, especially where the ladies are concerned. So this is his story, and what he actually said to me when he gave it to me, he said he'd like me to put this out on a video because he wants it to be a warning to those guys out there who, like myself actually, who have been out there a long, long time, and they think they basically know it all. Not that I think I know everything, but I think I've learned a lot along the way. But what he's basically saying from this story is anybody can get fooled. You can get tricked. It doesn't matter how long you've been going out to Thailand. And he's given me this story to share with you guys, and hopefully this will be a lesson to everyone. So let's crack on with this, and I'll maybe make some comments at the end. So this story actually took place last year when Larry decided to have a trip out to Thailand. He did the normal thing. He headed out to Bangkok, had a night or two in Bangkok, then took a taxi down to Pattaya, checked into a small hotel, out and about as he usually is, had his meal, went off for a few drinks, and he was feeling quite tired. The old jet lag was still, I mean, the guy's 66, so although he'd been in Thailand for 2 days, he'd travelled from Bangkok to Pattaya, he wasn't 100%, he was still feeling quite tired. And on this particular night, he thought he'd have a little bit of an earlier night, not early, but I think it was around midnight, he was saying. And he was heading back to his hotel and he thought, let's have one more singer on the way. You know what it's like, guys, we've all done it. And he popped into a nondescript small beer bar on one of the sois further away from Walking Street. I think around soi 6 to 8 down there. There's lots and lots of these bars, are all the same. And he decided to pop into one of these bars, just have one more singer before he went back to his hotel. Goes in there, orders his drink, has that. And he's sitting there, and across the room, or across the bar, I don't necessarily think it was a room, across the bar, he's seen this really, for him, this is his words, he's seen this really lovely lady. She was beautiful, and he didn't know it at that time, but she was actually 28, and her name turned out to be Marley. So he actually called her over, had a drink with her, got talking to her as you do, and to cut a long story short, he basically decided that he'd like to spend some time out of the bar with Marley. So he paid her bar fine and he left with her. But something quite interesting, while he was speaking to Marley at the bar, and I've mentioned this in so many videos in the past, guys, remember, Larry's not naive, so he knows the score. He just listens, but he takes it all in, but he knows what's happening. But when he was talking to Marley, I'm going to read this. I've got it written out here, so I'm going to read a passage from what Larry's written, because he describes it much better than I can. And he says, her English was very poor, and she told me she only served drinks and never went outside with customers. All the bullshit that I wanted to hear. Guess what? Marley only worked in the bar for a month. She had no kids, no Thai boyfriend, and she was surviving only on ladies' drinks. My lucky day. So, you know, if a new guy had been listening to all these stories from Marley, he might have got taken in and believed it and thought he'd hit the jackpot. But obviously, Larry's been around Southeast Asia and Thailand for a long, long time. He didn't want to embarrass the girl. He just listened, but took it with a pinch of salt. But basically, he paid the bar fine. Now, because of Larry's age, he wasn't one for bar hopping or changing girls on a nightly basis. Marley pushed all the right buttons, and he knew a lot of it was bullshit, but basically she was a lovely looking girl. He liked her company. She wasn't immature, obviously, because of her age. She wasn't too old. I think Larry said that he was 36 years her senior, but she had a nice personality. She said the right things, and he really enjoyed her company. So what Larry decided to do, he thought, well, I'm going to stay with her for the 2 weeks I'm here. And she didn't actually ask him for any money. She didn't turn around and say, you've got to give me X amount of baht per day if you want to stay with me. It was just an unwritten kind of thing where, you know, Larry had sort of said to Marley, you know, I'm going to keep you for the 2 weeks. We're going to do the islands. You know, we'll just be together for 2 weeks, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. And he really enjoyed her company. As I say, she pushed all the right buttons, said all the right things, and she didn't put any pressure on him. She wasn't one of these sort of girls who said, let's go shopping, let's go to the gold shop, I need a new mobile phone. None of that nonsense. She just hung out with him, and he had a tremendous time with her. And what Larry went on to say was that it kind of felt like the old days, the 90s, when you had that girlfriend experience. To anybody who's a bit younger watching this video, it wasn't the same back then. In the sort of early 90s, when you hooked up with these Thai girls, there was a lot more feeling involved. It wasn't a business transaction so much as it is now. And people would say that was like the girlfriend experience. So people went out there and they got a kind of holiday girlfriend, and it was a lot more real than it is now. That's what Larry was trying to say. So Larry enjoyed Marley's company for the 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, Marley actually accompanied Larry to the airport in Bangkok. And it was very emotional. Larry had got attached to Marley. Marley appeared to like Larry, as is always the way. I don't know if there were any tears involved, but Larry explained that it was one of the most emotional departures from Thailand that he'd ever had, and it was very sad, and he definitely wanted to come back and see Marley. The problem for Larry, he wasn't a wealthy man. He wasn't even a well-off man. I think he was surviving on a pension. I don't know if he had a couple of pensions. He wasn't poor, but when he went away, he definitely went economy, and he definitely was very frugal when he went away. And I'm guessing his holiday money, his vacation money for the 2 weeks would have been saved over a year, because obviously when he goes to Thailand, he wants to have a good time. So Larry's headed back to the UK, and he's living alone in the UK. Good memories and some photographs of Marley. And he thought to himself, when I get my money together again, I'm going to definitely go out there, and I'm definitely going to be looking for Marley, because that was one of the best girlfriend experiences I've had in a long time. And to kind of keep the relationship going, what he did, because of technology, we can do this now. He was a Skype user. He put Skype onto Marley's phone, and he contacted her by video messaging. So sometimes up to 3 times a day. So obviously the time difference about 6-7 hours, depending on in the UK, we put our clocks forward and back an hour in the summer for daylight saving time. And so he was Skyping her up to 3 times a day. He could see her when you're Skyping somebody with a video chat, you can see them. And he was kind of extending the relationship. He was enjoying that. Marley appeared to be okay. He didn't like the fact that he knew she was still working in the bar, and it kind of hurt him that he couldn't send her some money to kind of take care of her a little bit. He knew he couldn't send her enough to pay all her financial needs, but he would have liked to have sent her a few thousand baht every now and again, and he just wasn't in the position to be able to do that, and that actually got him down. He didn't like that at all. But, you know, as I say, he kept in contact with her, and she was always there at the end of the video call for him. So that went on for several months. Now, eventually he noticed all of a sudden he couldn't get hold of her. She hadn't disappeared. She would come back every now and again. But what he found is if he tried to call Marley on a video call, the call either rang out, or she rejected it. And then what she'd do, she'd call back later, and she'd call back on a regular call with Skype, obviously, because it's free, but there was no video chat. So this was starting to happen more and more frequently. He couldn't get hold of her, and every time he called on video chat, she'd never pick up. But she'd call him back after a couple of hours, and the excuse that she gave when he said, look, why are you not answering my calls? Well, before we get to that point, something I'd forgot, I better mention this here. He'd actually called her and couldn't get hold of her for about 4 days. And when he finally did get hold of her, he had the Facebook page of Marley's sister. So he actually wrote to Marley's sister and said, look, I'm trying to get hold of Marley. She's not picking up her phone. It's been 4 days. Do you know where she is? Marley's sister wrote back to Larry and said, unusual. No, I haven't seen her. I haven't heard from her. Don't know what's going on. So he was leaving messages. Larry was leaving messages for Marley. And eventually he did get a call back from Marley. It was a regular call. And the excuse she gave was that and this is quite common, guys. What she said is that she dropped her phone in the sink. It was water damage. She couldn't find anybody to fix it. It had taken 4 days. But, now she was back online, as it were. And Larry kind of knew in the back of his head that this was bullshit. But, when you're in love, it's very easy to push these things aside. And I think Larry was in love, even though he had all this experience. And he decided to give her the benefit of the doubt, which, it was a red flag, really, wasn't it? That was the first of many red flags. And Larry, as we say, he gave her the benefit of the doubt, and it carried on from there. So we're going to leap forward now quite a few months. The next stage of the story is Larry is now in a position to return back to Thailand for another vacation. I don't know the exact time frame, but he's now ready to go back. Before he goes back, he contacts Marley again. He said, I'm coming over. Here's the dates. Would you wait for me? Can you see me when I get there? And yeah, no problem. I'll be here. Let me know when you get here. Or do you want me to come to the airport? Larry said, no, that's fine. I'll, you stay in Pattaya. I'm going to spend a night in Bangkok. Because of his age, he, obviously he didn't want to get off a 12-hour flight and head straight down to Pattaya on a 2-hour journey with the traffic at that time of the day. So he actually wanted to go out one night in Bangkok. It was his first night back, and he decided he'd like one night by himself. So he had his night out, got a taxi the next day, headed down to Pattaya, checked into his hotel in Pattaya, sent a message to Marley, hey, I'm here, I'm in town, and he got the shock of his life. He received a text, which he wasn't expecting to receive, the message that he received. And that message, as I say, guys, was very, very shocking. After all the time that she'd been Skyping him, all the messages, yeah, I'll wait for you. She knew he was coming. He was thinking about her. He got down to Pattaya. She sent him a message, said, sorry, I can't see you anymore. Why? Because she'd hooked up with an Australian man. He was a retired guy living in Pattaya. Wasn't wealthy, but he was quite, he had a good few pensions. He'd had his own business, and he was a lot better off than Larry. They're very clever, the girls, with working out who's a better financial benefit for them. And Marley had obviously made up her mind that the Australian guy can take care of her better than Larry could. Now, obviously, Larry was devastated. He was gutted. You can imagine he'd been looking forward to this holiday for months and months and months. He'd been in constant contact with Marley. He'd already agreed everything with her. She said she'd wait. Here he is sitting in his hotel room in Pattaya, and he's just been blown out like a candle. He was feeling devastated, but he's in Pattaya. What's a guy to do? Goes out, trolls a few bars, and he thought, I'm not going to go to Marley's bar. It's going to be a little bit upsetting. I think most guys wouldn't have been able to resist, that have made a beeline straight for Marley's bar, but he didn't go there. He thought, well, I'm in Pattaya, might as well make the best of a bad situation, and I'll go round and I'll see what Pattaya's got to offer me now. There's plenty of ladies and what have you down there. So he did that. He had a night out, and the next day, I don't think he hooked up with any company that night. He was tired again. He went back to his hotel. The next day, he was just, he had a lay-in. He was getting ready to go down for lunch. His phone goes, and who is it? It's Marley. And out of the blue, she says, I want to see you. Can I come round to your hotel or meet you for a coffee, rather? She wanted to meet him outside for a coffee. The hotel bit's a bit later on. I'm giving the story away here. So what Marley basically said, she said, look, I'd like to come and see you, explain things. Let's meet in a small cafe that they knew on the beachfront. And when we get there, I'll explain everything to you. So the meeting was scheduled at this small restaurant, cafe, whatever you want to call it. Larry turns up about half an hour early. Marley eventually turns up, and his first thought, he looks at her and he thinks, gee, you know, she's as beautiful as ever. She sits down and she starts to talk actually, and she explains to Larry. She's very apologetic, but what she basically says, she says, look, Larry, I've met this guy, this Australian guy. He's financially, he's quite well off. He lives here full time, so I don't have to worry about him going back to his own country, and it gives me stability. I've moved in with him. He's taking care of me. He's given me money to send back to my family, and financially I'm stable. The only thing is, he does shout a lot and he gets angry, and I'm not very happy about that. But at the end of the day, he's he's taking care of me. So, you know, he didn't hold a grudge. He was kind of hoping that it wouldn't work out, so that, you know, maybe he could get back together with her. But he wished her all the best. He said he understood. And as far as Larry was concerned, you know, she seemed to be, that was it, basically. So they parted, wished each other the best of luck. And as far as Larry was concerned, that was it. Later in the day, his phone goes again, and yeah, you're not going to win any prizes for guessing who it was. It was Marley. She actually said to him, she said, Larry, I'm just cooking some of that Thai chicken that you like. Can I bring it around to your hotel room? And Larry's thinking, this is getting really weird now. You know, she's met up with me today. She's told me all this, and now she wants to bring Thai chicken round to my hotel. Of course, he was curious. He couldn't resist what's going on here. So he said, yeah, you know, told her which hotel, room number, everything. Marley turns up later in the evening, and you can guess what happens, guys, can't you? They didn't actually, Larry said he didn't actually end up touching any of the chicken. What he did end up doing was having a heavy session with Marley. We'll keep it clean for YouTube. She parted, she went on her way, and this kind of took place for several days. The same thing happened several days in a row. And Larry turned around and he said, look, Marley, aren't you worried? Because if your sponsor, as Larry puts it, your boyfriend, finds out that you're going off with me or other guys, you know, he'll probably throw your bags out the window. Then you're back to working in the bar and you've lost your financial stability. She had to think about it, but you know what the Thai girls are like, the Thai bar girls. When money's involved, they'll take the risk. It's like, you know, they're not thinking long term. And just by coincidence at that time, a phone rang, and it was her Australian boyfriend. He wanted to know where she was, and the answer, she says, mark it, I'll be back home in 20 minutes time. This went on for the whole of Larry's holiday, his vacation, for 2 weeks. Marley came round to the room. I don't know if there was any money exchanged. I'm guessing there would have been, because the bar girls are motivated only by money. As much as you think that if you're a guy who's dating a bar girl, it's all about the money. They chase the money, and she might be living with a guy who's taking care of her. But if she's going every day to Larry's room, then I would imagine, an educated guess, that she is getting paid for her services. So this goes on for a couple of weeks with Larry. Eventually, Larry starts to come to his senses. He thinks, hang on a minute. You know, I put Marley up on a pedestal, lovely 28-year-old woman, like a girlfriend, comes across ever so nice. But he then thinks about what she's doing. You know, there's this guy. I mean, the ultimate goal surely for these girls is financial stability. She come down to Patti to work. And if there's a guy, he's not only paying her, supplying her all her needs, paying her phone bill, he lives with her, she doesn't have to pay for food, she's got no worries with money, and the cherry on the cake is this guy is sending an amount of money to her village to take care of her family. It doesn't get any better than that. That has got to be the holy grail for the bar girl. But yet, she's coming out and she's gone with Larry. So Larry has a think about it, and he starts to come to his senses, and he thinks, well, hang on a minute, if she's doing that with me and she's lying so easy to him, then if she was my girlfriend, she could do it to me. She could do it to anybody, actually. So Larry thought about this long and hard, and he thought, you know what, I shouldn't be involved with her. And there were no emotional goodbyes at the airport this time. Larry left Thailand a lot wiser man. He wasn't stupid anyway, but he reflected on the story and Marley and what she'd been doing. And Larry felt he got away quite, he wasn't too badly affected. He didn't lose a lot of money. Some guys go out to Thailand, they buy houses for their Thai girlfriends, and they invest money in businesses. They lose everything. But Larry got off quite lightly, actually. He'd given her a few thousand baht. He paid for her services, and he hadn't lost anything. The only thing he had lost, he was emotionally drained, and it was it was mentally challenging. He was upset about the whole thing. But what Larry decided, that's it. He will go out to Thailand again. He will take the best of what Thailand's got to offer. He loves Pattaya. He will enjoy the company of the ladies in the bars, but never again is he going to try and develop a relationship. And what Larry actually said to me, he said, please share this story, because there are guys out there, they think they're so wise, it would never happen to them. And he said, I'm an old fool and guilty as charged. So thanks to Larry for that story. It's very, very interesting. And we have another one, similar story from another guy next week. I'm just preparing that now. Thanks very much for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.